Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll do a quick Cleveland Cavaliers off-season preview. Before we start today's video, I would like to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think the Cavaliers should do? The injury bug hit them at the wrong time, and plethora of other reasons. But again, let me hear those opinions. While you're at it, hit that subscribe and like button. It would mean a ton and help out the channel. After an outstanding 64-18 regular season that saw the Cavaliers secure the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, the top spot in the Central Division, the Cavaliers lost in the second round to Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, and the Indiana Pacers. Now they head into a pivotal offseason with Defensive Player of the Year, Evan Mobley. Due to him winning that award has, I guess, triggered the Rose clause in his contract, making their cap situation a lot more complicated. They had a dominant regular season, finishing #1 in points per game, second in true shooting, fourth in field goals made, but they lost in 5 games to the Pacers. Garland averaged 20 points a game, so did Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley was just under 20 and 10 a game, and Jarrett Allen averaged 13.5 and 10. Max Strus helped space the floor. They had themselves DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome be their like two-headed monsters off the bench, especially once they brought in DeAndre Hunter. Dean Wade had some injury problems this season, but he was huge for them. Naquan Tomlin's on a two-way, but he's probably going to convert it, and he's someone that they really like. So with all that being said, obviously, they have the young guys, in my opinion, to reload. I think Craig Porter certainly can be a steady backup guard. The rookie wing and Jim Tyson has some developing tools offensively and defensively that I like. I do believe Isaac Okoro, the defensive stopper, who can, is a decent three-point shooter, but he played 20 minutes a night, is probably going to be on the move. Chuma Okeke has a team option. He saw some limited action, but if they're going to keep Hunter and company, you probably think guys like Okoro are going to be on their way out, with Tyson, Porter, Naquan Tomlin being some of the replacements. Same thing with Sam. If they can keep Sam Merrill, that'd be huge. Sharpshooter. Now, Javonte Green, who played spot minutes in the playoffs, is probably not going to stay. And I wonder the same thing if Emoni Bates returns. I think Luke Travers is a developmental wing who they would bring back, probably maybe stays another year, but this is a team that their projected salary of $221 million, tax threshold of 187.8, first apron's 195.9, the second apron's 207.8. That means they're going to be operating over the second apron if they don't move money. I think that just shows Isaac Okoro is on his way out, and they have 2 second-round picks. I think they're going to have to be working with it, looking obviously for some shooting, depth upside, a lot of upside on the depth part of things. They're also a team that was able to limit opponent field goal percentage and at a top 5 rate, same with their rebounding, second best net rating. And a large thing was that Donovan Mitchell carried a lot of the load. Ty Jerome, I think, is going to walk, and he just was not consistent in the playoffs. And the Cavs really struggled with late-game execution and depth issues in the second round. So with Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Allen, and Strus locked in, the core is that's their championship core. So they're going to have to move Okoro, due to the fact that if they don't, they're going to be operating above the second apron restriction, and those tools are going to be gone to help them improve. So their draft assets and their internal development of Tyson, Craig Porter, Luke Travers, and whoever else, Naquan Tomlin, you want to add there, is going to be critical, because Cleveland's going to act now as a luxury tax team. They're going to have to figure out what free agent priorities they're going to make, and they're going to have to start developing those smart draft choices they've made and brought in to sustain this elite regular season form and then take that next step in the playoffs. So before we continue, I want to hear the rest of your thoughts on that one. I really think that the unit that is Mitchell, Garland, Allen, Mobley, and I think you would assume the Strus-Hunter combination, those 6 guys, I like Dean Wade, 7. I think is a good 7-man rotation. I do believe they're missing 2 types of guys I think either what I would prefer is a true maybe floor general that's also able to create for himself. And I know that's a really tall task. I guess best case scenario would be if they could get like a Tyus Jones on a cheap contract to replace Ty Jerome, because we're under the assumption that they're not going to pay Ty Jerome because it's going to keep it to be too expensive. And if you have Sam Merrill back, like, I think that's a big part of that. Obviously, having another big, I think a floor spacing big, I would say Chris Boucher, but is that going to be enough? Like a Bobby Portis would kind of be really cool if they could have that, but that again is going to be too expensive. But the mold of those types of players where they basically are able to address shooting, backup depth in the front court and scoring in one player, and then another player address the playmaking, shot creation, floor spacing need that they need at the guard position, especially if Ty Jerome is going to be on the outs. And you're in a tough predicament when you look at this free agency class, because it's not going to have a luxury of players. And the one team that's going to have all the spending power is the Brooklyn Nets. So it becomes interesting with what's going to happen. And I think a lot of this, Craig Porter and Jalen Tyson and Naquan Tomlin will be guys that they really hope develop. You bring back Sam Merrill, and is it either a trade or a signing? As we mentioned earlier, Tyus Jones, who's the only guard that might be, or Spencer Dinwiddie maybe, that could be in their price range of a veteran minimum type player. And I don't know if Tyus Jones is even going to be a vet min. I know he was last year, but I would be surprised if he does it 2 years in a row. And not that desperate teams pays him more, like, not desperate, but a team that wants him more, like the Orlando Magic. Go ahead and do that. To me, what makes the most sense is you go ahead and you try to find a backup big and a guard to help the young guys not have to shoulder as much of the load in this coming season. But as long as you can keep this core together, this is a team that also, I think, stretched themselves too deep. Like, they should not have won this many games. I'm not saying there was a problem. It was cool winning that many games, but I think going for almost 70 wins hurt them. They were gassed. They weren't healthy. And it's hard to keep the core together, especially with these new restrictions. So if you can keep a majority of the core together and then replenish the back end with young pieces or veteran cheap pieces, then you should be okay. So let me hear your thoughts with your predictions later.